There's so much pseudoscience out there, and if you're not careful, you can actually mislead yourself by trusting the wrong advice. For this video, I'd like to show you how to spot that and what to look for instead. And the best example is actually how long an article should be. Text length is one of the examples where I see some very bad advice given, and I'm going to use that as an example in this video. But I have to take these off because they are making me dizzy. It is going to be a slightly more nerdy video, and that is why I'm wearing my trusty lab coat. And if you're interested in a more nuanced approach, this is the video for you. I'm not going to say you're going to do this and this and this, and if you're that type that need very structured advice, this is not going to be the video for you. But before we dive into the example with text length, I'm going to do a very basic example just to prove my point. I am a veterinarian, so of course my first example is going to be from the animal world. So imagine we look at a huge population of dogs, and we select only the dogs that are pregnant. We look at those dogs and trying to find a commonality between them. And one of the things that is quite obvious is that all the dogs are female. So being pregnant equals being female. So if I didn't spend 5-6 years in university and knew nothing about dogs, I could maybe easily deduct, okay, so being female also equals being pregnant. And if we wanted to test this, we would take a bunch of female dogs. And I know the English word for female dog starts with a B, but I guess YouTube is a bit touchy about me using that. Even though it's fair game in this instance, I would rather not. So just female dog inside a room, and we wait long enough, and then in this case, they will all come out pregnant at some point. But of course they don't. And if you only put female dogs in there, none of them will come out pregnant. And we have to wonder why. And it's of course because there has to be something about a male here, whether they meet or it goes through me as a veterinarian, or there has to be something about her age, her not being too young, or maybe not being too old. So there's a lot of other factors going into this. So this statement is not going to be true always. So if we look at this, we can quite easily see that this statement will always be true, but the opposite is not always true. Sometimes it is, but not always. And this is the difference between correlation and causation. So there's a correlation between being female and being pregnant, but it's not the cause of getting pregnant, is not being female just in itself. Some other examples I like to give is that if you look at the data on how many people who are drowning in swimming pools and how many movies Nicolas Cage has been in, there's a direct correlation between the two. Of course, they don't have anything to do with each other, but if you look at just the graph and you had to deduct something from that, you can see that these two things are definitely connected. Of course, they aren't. Another example I like to give people when I'm talking about this is a slightly more morbid but very relevant example. So scientists were looking at women who didn't get breast cancer, and they were trying to figure out what they had in common in order to come up with a recommendation on how to avoid getting breast cancer. And looking at the blood samples, they could see that the women without breast cancer had a significantly higher level of vitamin C in their blood compared with women with breast cancer. So this is quite easy, right? You look at this. Having a high level of vitamin C equals a protective effect for breast cancer. So if we want to test this, you just take women without breast cancer and you just feed them a lot of vitamin C. It's a quite easy supplement to get your hands on, and it's fairly inexpensive and it's safe as well. So they did this. And after a while, they were looking at the same group who had gotten this extra supplement of vitamin C and could actually see that they have an increased risk of getting breast cancer. So the opposite wasn't true. Just measuring something in a selected group didn't come out to be the causation here. As far as I know, there has to be more testing done, but one of the theories they're testing now is maybe eating a more plant-based diet is maybe having a protective effect on certain kinds of cancer. And as a side effect of that, you might have an increased level of vitamin C in your blood. So there is maybe a correlation here that these two things happen together, but it's not a causation. And actually making that conclusion could actually be more dangerous for you if you just eat an excessive amount of this supplement. But now let's bring the examples a little more close to home in the blogging world. So there's been studies done, and quite a lot of them, where people look at their highest ranking articles on a certain keyword and trying to find commonalities between them. And it's sort of been the common perception that high ranking articles had a lot of words. And this is true. It's quite easy to prove, but is the opposite true as well? Just adding a lot of words, will that actually ensure that you get a high ranking? And of course it doesn't. An example of this is one of my authority sites that is actually aimed at the veterinary world, and I at some point wanted to teach other veterinarians about marketing, online marketing, email, SEO and all that stuff. And I wrote a very, very long piece in Danish on Facebook marketing. It's about 6,000 words or so, and it's not bad writing. And I actually got it published in a Danish veterinary science paper, and the Norwegian science paper wanted to make a translation, and after that the Swedish science paper wanted to make a translation. So other people thought it was good writing. Publishing this on the website that was actually aimed at more scientific and protocol-based material for other veterinarians did absolutely nothing. It's twice as long as the other article that is ranking #1 for the same Danish keyword on Facebook marketing, and this article covers more ground, but it's not ranking anywhere near the first 5 pages or so. So length is not going to increase your rankings all by itself. And this is of course because there's something else going into this. Just being female doesn't make you pregnant. Just adding many more words doesn't make you rank higher. And with the Google helpful content update, this is going to be even more true. So that's that. The common thread in all these examples are that the test data is selected and you're looking at them retrospectively. Blah, blah. But you're looking at them retrospectively. So you selected the dogs that were already pregnant. They selected the women that didn't have breast cancer, and they have found the articles that were already ranking. So this is looking at data retrospectively. And this is sort of the lowest level you can get in science. And this is what I would like you to be aware of when you look at sort of science here on YouTube, and if you read it anywhere on the internet, is that were they looking for common trends in something that were already succeeding. If you want to do this, and I try to do this regularly here on the channel, you would have to have 2 groups. Let me show you. This is 2 groups. This could be dogs or women or swimming pools or articles on a website. You do something to this group. Maybe add some words. To the other group, you do something that is called placebo. For the vitamin study, it could be a tablet without anything on it. For the website example, it could be adding a dot or a dash somewhere and just saving the article as it was. So the scientist has to prove that these 2 groups are similar. If you have like 10 articles in each, you have to argue that the 10 articles here are the same as the 10 articles there. So you cannot pick and choose the best articles to do your testing on. You have to scientifically prove that these two groups are similar. So if you want to do it really good, you can actually add a third group. And in this group, you do something that you want to test up against your primary testing. In the vitamin study, you could try to give them vitamin A and see what happens. In our website example, it could be actually removing words. And then you cannot change the groups for as long as the study runs. Selecting the data from the result that you want to get is very bad science. So I tried to do this in the video where I show you how I get my articles to index on the website. People are telling you to do interlinking and to do a manual indexing in Google Search Console and do all sorts of stuff. And I took 30 articles that wasn't indexing, and I did something to 10 of them. I did nothing to 10 of them, and I did manual indexing to 10 of them. And guess what? The thing I did here actually made the articles index, and the 10 articles I was testing in the manual index didn't index. So I could, with some simple data, prove that just doing a manual index in Google Search Console is not solely what gets an article to index, but the method I used here, I could actually prove that that method was getting the articles indexed. You can go and watch that video if you like. I go into more details on the control group and the test group in that one. So there's two things here that you need to be aware of when you're evaluating if a scientific study is done right. Is the aim of the articles formulated beforehand? And are the test groups containing a placebo control group where they did nothing to? So if they are going back and looking at things that have already happened, they are selecting and most likely getting the result they want to. If they have a control group and they don't change it for as long as the study runs, they don't have the possibility to affect the result in any way. So that are two things that you should look for when people are giving advice here on YouTube. And that is what I'm trying to do here on the channel. If you like that kind of content, remember to subscribe. I'm also going to publish a video soon on my case study where I built a website from scratch, and it's starting to earn money. So stay tuned for that. Till next time, see ya.